That's quite a turnout for AAA, that too on a weekday. I don't get this kind of turnout in a regular class also. So, chalo. Hello, Aditya.
हाय सर, हाउ आर यू?
I'm fine. How are you?
एब्सोल्युटली ग्रेट। आई सी आपने चश्मा फिर आपने फिर चेंज कर लिया।
Yes, it changes every quarter. और कुछ ना सही यही है. The lighting is not good, यार. I'm looking bolder than I am. It's just the lighting, it's not me. Okay, chalo. So, because of certain logistical challenges, instead of having the entire session in one day, I have decided to break it down into 4 days. So instead of having 8 hours on Tuesday, we'll do 2 hours, 2.5 hours, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then off you go for your exam. If there are people who want to get their mocks evaluated, you can connect with me separately. I'll be there for that. Um, that's a separate discussion to be had altogether. And at this point, if you have not written a mock, it's still okay. It's not, it doesn't make that big of a difference. If you have paid special attention to the exam kit, I think you are pretty decently sorted on that front. Now, I thought instead of having, as I said, everything in one day, let's break it down into a couple of days. And today I wanted to focus specifically on section A questions, as in how do you tackle those questions? What are the expectations? And most important of all, is there a way that we can break down so much information into easy exhibits? The issue with the AAA exam is, especially with the section A questions, section B questions, so where we, they are pretty straightforward. The main issue that I feel troubles everyone is the length of the exhibits itself is so long na ki by the time you finish reading, you have forgotten what is it that you started off with in the first place. So when you are reading, how to go about, breaking down that information? Do you need to read all the exhibits in order to answer all the questions? Now, there is a specific, I'll show you the first question, which is the very first question from the exam kit. That also happens to be a past exam question. So it's not as if, I'm conjuring this question out of thin air. You will know once you have looked at enough number of questions, you will realize that these questions follow a specific syntax. Okay. And there will always be the same expectation from you, regardless of which question you check. The expectation will be to prepare briefing notes. Now, what are briefing notes? Briefing notes is basically a set of information points that you are communicating to the partner for the audit that is about to be undertaken. Now, you are at not at the planning stage entirely, but you are at the stage where, uh, say, for example, the year end is 31st of March, you are in the month of July, for example, and then certain tasks have been given to you before, or certain information has been given to you before commencement of the final audit. Now, what is your job? Your job is to piece together that information and give certain advice to the advice is zyada the partner needs you to summarize certain issues for him. The partner needs you to identify what could be the major risks facing that business. He might ask you that there is this particular area which we feel is an area of major concern. Could you frame audit procedures around that area? So out of the 40 technical marks, sorry, out of the 50 tech marks are allocated to question 1, 40 marks are exclusively for technical skills, and the remaining 10 marks are for professional skills. Now, the four professional skills, which is the skill of communication, then the skill of analysis and evaluation, the skill of professional skepticism, and the skill of commercial acumen. All of these are tested in section A, question 1. In the other questions in your exam, all the four skills are not tested. Analysis and evaluation is tested in all the four questions. Communication skill is tested only in question 1. It is not tested elsewhere. Now, please remember that when you are framing answers to the first question, the briefing notes are for the partner, which means the person you are writing to is a couple of levels above you, who has more experience than you. So when you are framing these answers, you cannot get down and write stuff like, oh, let me tell you what is impairment. ही नोज व्हाट इज इम्पेयरमेंट, ही इज नॉट अ स्टूडेंट राइटिंग डबल ए कि उसको इम्पेयरमेंट का मतलब समझाना पड़ेगा. ही नोज इट. यू ओनली हैव टू एनालाइज द सिचुएशन एट हैंड एंड ट्राई टू फ्रेम सॉल्यूशंस फॉर दैट. ठीक है. लेट मी टेक यू टू अ क्वेश्चन एंड we'll first of all not frame answers. We'll just understand कि यार यहाँ पे requirement क्या है. Now the requirement is all, see here they will tell you in the first part of the question कि which exhibit contains what part. Exhibit 1, partner's email, an email which you have received from Paula Sanders, the audit engagement partner. So, who is writing this email to you? The audit engagement partner is writing this email to you. And what are you expected to do? She will outline that. Okay. There will be a case study which is basically set at the planning stage of the audit. Mostly it is for a single entity. कभी कभी rare cases में it could be for consolidated financial statements also. You could have a situation where 25 to 28 marks are for one client and the remaining part is for the other client. ठीक है. They will provide you detailed information which will include extracts of financial information, some strategic and other operational information. Basically, here you need to understand what is the business that we are operating in. Say, for example, I am operating a coaching class, an online coaching class. What are the risks that I face? If I am operating a cloud kitchen, what are the risks that I face? And these risks will definitely filter down in your answer in some form or the other. Basically, for the first question, यहाँ पे आपको unless otherwise specified, all exhibits should be considered when you are doing a risk assessment. Now, question one may risk assessment is always going to be tested. They might test you on business risk, they might test you on audit risk, they might test you on risk of material misstatement. But ये थ्री में से दो चीजें तो आपको 100% आएगा in the first question. Now, business, when the question says, tell me something about the business risk, think about what is out of the information given in front of you, which of these can lead to closure of the business. Ultimately, say for example, I am operating a pet shop or I'm operating, I don't know, I'm operating a bar. Now, you know, right? If I'm operating a bar where hard drinks are served, I need a license from the government. If my license has expired and there are chances that the renewal of the license will not happen, that means if the license doesn't get renewed, the business will not be able to function. So that is a big business risk, almost, an impact on your going concern. So when the question is on business risk, they are primarily interested in knowing, is it possible कि इनमें से किसी रीजन से business will shut down? And then audit risk and risk of material misstatement is a separate issue altogether. What is audit risk? Can someone tell me?
So, audit risk is a risk where the auditor will issue an inappropriate audit opinion when the financial statements are not materially misstated.
So
Sir, is it detection risk plus risk of material misstatement?
it is. It is exactly that. But the if I were to summarize audit risk in layman language before I introduce the more sophisticated terms, audit risk is the fear that I will give out an audit opinion saying that the financial statements are true and fair when in fact they do not present a true and fair view. So all my points, be it detection related, control related, whatever it is, should lead me in that direction. Now, this piece of information is going to be very critical. यहाँ पे mostly cases में you will notice and you must have noticed when you did the exam kit that this is usually addressed on 1st of July. ये ACCA ने standard बना के रखा है that uh, these are the deadlines and these are the dates that will be mentioned. The year ending is 30th September 2005. The year is yet to end. ठीक है. And then they will give you certain critical pieces of information. There are people who in an attempt to highlight something, वो पूरा का पूरा रिकॉर्ड मतलब they end up underlining literally everything. आपको वो नहीं करना है. You should understand what is important. It is 1st of July. Who are you? You are a manager. You are always going to be a manager in question one. A firm of CCAs, the responsible for audit of Hammer Group for the year ending. This year ending date, today's date, ठीक है. The group which is not a listed company operates a number of hardware stores, बहुत सारे hardware stores which supply trade customers and the public. Trade custom and public matlab public is retail customers. Trade customers are B2B, as in business to business sale. One company selling to another company, and then business to customer sale. Four exhibits: partners email, group structure, financial information, business developments, additional services. ठीक है. Respond to the instructions in the email from the audit engagement partner. ठीक है. Professional marks are for all the four skills. Maximum marks allocated for communication skill are 4. ये आपको कहाँ कहाँ पे मिलेगा? Let me show you. The marks for communication, ये थोड़ा बाद में देखेंगे. Don't look at it right now. The marks for communication are A, on the format that you have presented and on the tone of the answer. ठीक है. When I say format, आपको in question 1 you will always be asked to prepare briefing notes. Telling something in short, summarizing the whole thing for the partner in short is briefing notes. So give the title briefing notes to Paula Sanders. सामने वाले का ईगो भी तो आपको स्ट्रोक करना है. So to first, from later. Subject: audit planning in respect of Hammer Group. It has to be very, very short and succinct. And then today's date. Okay. And then you go to introduction. Now, what you write in the introductory paragraph is nothing else but a summary of the 4 requirements that are given to you. Evaluate the business risk faced by the group. Evaluate and prioritize the risk of material misstatement to be considered in planning the audit of the group. Using Exhibit 4, design the principal audit procedures to be performed in respect of expenditure. And using Exhibit 5, discuss any ethical issue arising and recommend any actions. Top point 4 is very topical situation. There are certain ethical challenges that might be there. 1, 2 and 3, iske jaisa similar requirements you will get in almost every question. Now, these briefing notes have been prepared for your use in planning the audit of Hammer Group. So you specify what is this? These are briefing notes. They are for you, not for everyone. For what period? For the year ended 30th September 2005. Give information about the client. The group is an existing audit client. अगर new audit client होता तो यहाँ पे लिखा होता this is an existing audit client for the company, sorry, for the audit firm. And using the recent information obtained from client and other information supplied in your email, these briefing notes evaluate significant business risk faced by the group. This was the first line. Copy paste significant business risk faced by the group. Then the significant risk of material misstatements identified, evaluated, and prioritized in order to plan the audit. पूरा बोला था ना? Evaluate and prioritize. So you mention that it gives a very legitimate structure to the opening paragraph. ठीक है. The significant risk of material misstatement has been identified. Principal audit procedures with respect to expenditure has been noted along with ethical issues. This introductory paragraph, I'm not doing it only for cosmetic reasons. There are marks allocated for this. So you better be well prepared to tackle. Opening introductory paragraph हो गया. Then you should talk about the individual requirements. Now, everyone tells you that, or you might have read it, I'm not sure, कि यार please talk about the materiality. It is critical to talk about materiality. But what is the first point that you are talking about? The first point that you will be talking about is business risk. Business risk में materiality आपको नहीं देखना है. Materiality कहाँ पे देखना है? Evaluate and prioritize the risk of material misstatement to be considered in planning the group audit. So when you go ahead to write the risk of material misstatement, वहां पे you have to write about materiality. Materiality calculate करना 1 mark. Materiality का justification देना. New client है तो I have set the materiality at lower end of the spectrum. Risky client है तो I have set the materiality at the lower end of the spectrum. Very risky client होगा तो I have set the performance materiality level below the overall materiality level. ये लिखना, writing this much about materiality is going to fetch you 2 marks. 1 mark for the materiality, 1 mark for justification. So writing this heading, matlab format, giving an introduction, and Writing about materiality and justification, 4 marks in section A can be picked up here only. उसके बाद द रिमेनिंग, सो आउट ऑफ, सो दिस इज एनालिसिस एंड इवैल्यूएशन का मार्क्स है मटीरियलिटी का, इट्स नॉट कम्युनिकेशन स्किल। कम्युनिकेशन स्किल का 2 मार्क्स आपको यहाँ पे मिला, ब्रीफिंग नोट और ये पूरा मतलब ऊपर का फॉर्मेट। फिर आपको 2 मार्क्स मिला इन राइटिंग अबाउट इंट्रोडक्शन, वो ओपनिंग पैराग्राफ आपने लिख दिया। उसके बाद द रिमेनिंग 2 मार्क्स ऑन कम्युनिकेशन विल बी ऑन हाउ यू present your answer. Are you presenting it in a logical way using a language that is most appropriate for the partner? Because आप किसको दे रहे हो, the briefing notes are being given to the partner. ठीक है? So this is the idea. Now, अब exhibit, अच्छा एक और चीज, observe this thing. Business risk 10, evaluate and prioritize the risk of material misstatement 16, so 26 marks on risk. And you will find the same this thing everywhere. I met with the group finance director yesterday along with representatives from the group audit committee. We discussed the group's activities and its plans to expand into further international markets. They also provided me with some extracts from the projected consolidated financial statements and a selection of KPIs. I have also provided you with some background information about the group to assist with planning the audit. Based on the analysis which I have done on this industry, it is appropriate for overall materiality to be based on revenue. Acha, very well. They have told you that the overall अरे यार, me and my inability to draw straight lines. Overall materiality, revenue. So, sir, what should I base my materiality on? The question has given you an instruction. They have also said you will need to determine and apply an appropriate materiality threshold in the briefing notes. ठीक है, ये होने के बाद now your mind should be alert for 4 things: business risk, which can end up stopping the business; risk of material misstatement, which can basically, you know, item. So for material misstatement, you need to determine the materiality level first. And then when you are talking about risk of material misstatement, you should specifically focus on the financial statement assertions and which of those assertions are getting affected. You should refer to exhibits 2, 3, and 4 for carrying out the requested risk evaluation very clearly. Using exhibit 4, design principal audit procedures. So they have narrowed down your work, and last part is discuss any ethical issues. ठीक है, you have very clearly understood the requirement. आपने कुछ 4 मार्क तो उठा लिए यहाँ पे. Now let's look at the exhibit. The group operates a number of large hardware stores within the domestic market. Keep your mind alert for 2 things. Can it stop the business? Can it cause a problem in the financial statements? दो चीज है. The stores supply building material and equipment to public and to the builders. The hammer brand, which is internally generated. The chartered accountant in me, the SBR teacher in me gets excited when I see the word internally generated. And AAA has more of accounting standards than even SBR for that matter. ठीक है, यहाँ पे ब्रांड को अंडरलाइन करो एंड इंटरनली जनरेटेड को अंडरलाइन करो. एंड नॉट रिकॉग्नाइज्ड इन द कंसोलिडेटेड स्टेटमेंट ऑफ फाइनेंशियल पोजीशन इज की टू ग्रुप सक्सेस. I see this as a problem. Why? Now, please understand, Hammer brand, which is internally generated and not recognized in the consolidated financial statements, is key to group success. Now, if this is an internally generated brand of the subsidiary, so when you are preparing consolidated financial statements, it should be recognized. If it is a brand, if it is an internally generated brand by the holding company itself, then you don't need to write that down. So, फिर don't recognize it, it cannot be recognized. One of the group subsidiaries, French company, is a financial services company. You know, being a financial services company again creates one business risk. What is that risk? A, I am operating in the regulated sector. Financial services chalana and coaching institute chalana is not the same thing. So this is a regulatory issue, and that means the level of compliance that I will have to do in general will be more. Mallet Co is wholly owned subsidiary and operates the Hammer store. Mallet wholly owned and operates the Hammer store. It generates the majority of group's income. Okay. सो ग्रुप इनकम आपका यहीं से आ रहा है मेजॉरिटी, बिकॉज यू नो व्हाट, इट ऑपरेट्स द 50 रिटेल स्टोर्स अक्रॉस द कंट्री. Then, Mallet Company has been involved in a price war with another national hardware store during the year, offering significant discounts and heavily marketing the Hammer brand in an attempt to increase the market share. Do you see any risk, any business related risk here? Anything in the first paragraph that makes you feel कि यार इससे business के survival को या business के growth and existence को it can have an impact. Think about that. Make a mental note. ठीक है. Now look at this one. We will write it all down, don't worry. Ladder Company is an overseas subsidiary situated in Finland. Overseas subsidiary बोला तो मेरे दिमाग में when I do SBR, what is the first thing that troubles me about accounting is one of the issues that will affect the risk of material misstatement or audit risk also. When I am looking at an overseas subsidiary, आपको क्या तकलीफ होता था? Your issue was consolidation adjustments. Your issue was what rate of exchange to be used for conversion. Your issue was all of these things. So naturally, all of these things will go into your risk in some form or the other. The group obtained a 65% shareholding in October 2004 for cash consideration of 82 million. The share purchase was financed partly using a 32 million bank loan with a variable interest rate which was taken out in October 2004. Now, purchase was financed using a 32 million bank loan with a variable interest rate. Now, I know variable interest rate कैसे quote होता है? It is LIBOR plus 3%, SOFR plus 2%, something like this. तो जैसे मेरा base rate change होगा, naturally my interest rate will also change, and that is a business risk. If the variable rate loan का rate of interest increases, then that will have an impact on my interest payment and my cash outflows, and that will impact my cash flow position. The bank loan has covenants attached to it in relation to interest cover and gearing. Can someone tell me what is a covenant?
So they are like conditions.
And conditions
Terms
do
and
we,
conditions.
It's like conditions on loan by the bank.
okay.
So restrictions, or we can say limitations. Like, there are some limitations for giving the loan.
Okay, so a covenant is a condition that is already a part of the loan agreement. And what does the debt covenant basically say? A debt covenant, for example, could be based on interest cover or it could be based on gearing. It says that agar आपका interest cover becomes less than 3, then on that date you have violated a condition. And if the interest cover goes below 3, then you will have to repay the entire amount of loan that is outstanding. तो या फिर इट कुड से समथिंग लाइक अगर आपका डेट इक्विटी रेशियो फॉल्स बिलो और गोज अबव 40%, then whatever is the loan outstanding on that particular date, that amount you have to return. That is a debt covenant. Attached to it in relation to interest cover and gearing. यहाँ पे लिखा है interest cover and gearing related issue है. Now, does this tell me about any potential problem with the business? Now, my concern here is bank loan has covenants attached to it in relation to interest cover and gearing. Now, if the company sees कि यार interest, this covenant is getting breached, ये covenant violate हो रहा है, don't you think they will try to deliberately manipulate the profits in order to show a better picture, and in that process there will be a risk of material misstatement. If you remember materiality by nature, अगर आपको याद होगा, the amount might not be material from the point of view of value. Value based materiality नहीं है, but what kind of materiality is this? This is materiality by nature. What does that mean? So earlier assume करो my profit is 10 lakh rupees and my interest is say 4 lakh. 10 lakh upon 4, interest cover is 2.5. Now I know that I have been told कि your interest cover should not fall below 2.8. ठीक है, that has been specifically told to me. It is going to 2.5. तो मैं क्या करूंगा, मैं इंटरेस्ट का फिगर तो आई कैनॉट मैनिपुलेट बिकॉज इंटरेस्ट आई हैव पेड टू द बैंक. व्हाट आई विल डू इज आई विल मैनिपुलेट द प्रॉफिट अ लिटिल. मैं थोड़ा सा 50,000 से मेरा प्रॉफिट इंक्रीज कर दूंगा. डिवाइड 10,50,000 बाय 2,50,000, हाउ मच डू यू गेट?
So 4.2.
4.2. Okay. uh Say suppose, let's take another example where the numbers actually do fit in. ठीक है, पहले मेरा पीबीआईटी था 10 लाख. ठीक है, दिस वाज माय पीबीआईटी. दिस इज माय इंटरेस्ट. इंटरेस्ट इज 4 लाख. ठीक है, व्हाट इज माय इंटरेस्ट कवर? इंटरेस्ट कवर इज दिस अपॉन दिस. And what does the covenant say? The covenant says that if interest cover goes below 2.7, you will have to repay the entire loan amount. Now, what I do is, in order to I know that my interest cover has gone below 2.5, and if the bank sees this, bank will say कि चल मेरा पैसा वापस करो. So what I do is, very smartly, I just change my profit a little. I just increased my profit by 80,000 by doing some accounting adjustment. ठीक है, चलो 10 लाख 80 नहीं, 10,85,000 कर देता हूं मैं. तो एग्जैक्ट आ रहा था 10,85,000. हो गया 2.71. सो आई इंक्रीज्ड माय प्रॉफिट by 85,000 and the debt covenant is not breached anymore. क्या डेट कॉवेनेंट क्या बोल रहा है? डेट कॉवेनेंट हैज बीन मेड ऑन द बेसिस ऑफ द इंटरेस्ट कवर. एंड से फॉर एग्जांपल द लोन अग्रीमेंट सेज दैट इफ द डेट कॉवेनेंट फॉल्स बिलो 2.7, यू हैव टू रिटर्न द एंटायर लोन. आई एम वरीड अबाउट इट. सो व्हाट आई डू इज, मैं मेरा कुछ मैनिपुलेशन करता हूँ. व्हाट काइंड ऑफ मैनिपुलेशन? सम सेल विच वाज सपोज टू बी रिकॉर्डेड नेक्स्ट ईयर, आई रिकॉर्ड इट इन द करंट ईयर and my PBIT goes up by that value. Now let us assume that on the basis of revenue, my materiality is set at 1,20,000. Now, this is a manipulation of how much? This is a manipulation of 85,000. Now, if I just go by materiality by amount, I will say कि अरे 85,000 का overstated है profit, क्या फर्क पड़ता है? It is below the materiality threshold. But by manipulating the profit by an amount of 85,000, I was able to increase my interest cover, and thereby I was able to save the debt covenant from getting breached. This amount of manipulation, although not material by value, is material by nature, and therefore I have to be on the lookout for these items in the as an auditor. ठीक है, so this is what the debt bank loan has covenants. This is what it means. So here there is a risk of material misstatement involved. The reason I explained you all of this was that there is a risk of material misstatement involved because there is a debt covenant attached. The purpose of the acquisition was to expand the group's operations into new geographical market. This is the first overseas investment made by the Hammer Group. Ladder Company owns 50 hardware stores in Farland. The 35% non-controlling interest in Ladder Company is owned by the government of Farland due to regulatory requirement that at least that proportion of a company's share capital is government owned. The currency in Farland is the same as the currency in which the group is based. So you might not have issues in identification of functional currency in those aspects, but you are setting up operations in a new country. That is a business risk. You are doing it for the first time overseas. So naturally that itself counts as a business risk. Your firm was appointed as an auditor of Ladder Company in October 2004, and several members of the audit team have traveled to Farland to become familiar with the company, its key management personnel, and its regulatory environment. Farland does not mandate the use of IFRS standards, and Ladder Company's individual financial statements are prepared using Farland's national accounting standards. This also presents the risk of material misstatement. How? if I have to consolidate two sets of financial statements, it is necessary that both of them apply the same set of accounting standards and the same set of accounting policies. If that is not happening, what I have to do is, जो दूसरा कंपनी है उसका जो financial statements है in the currency of that country using the accounting standards there, I'll have to first of all convert the non-IFRS financial statements into IFRS financial statements. Now, if I don't have expertise, there are errors that can happen when I'm converting the non-IFRS financials to IFRS wala financials. So, वहाँ पे there is a risk of material misstatement that the company might end up doing. Plus, consolidation adjustments may be problem हो सकता है. That is another risk of material misstatement. And see, when you think about these risks, ideally you should write them down. That is what I always do. ठीक है? So on the right hand side, I usually keep on writing whatever I believe are the critical risks for the company. जैसे I'll walk you through how these are rough notes basically. Hardware store है, domestic market है, what is the main product that they are dealing in, what is their customer type, what are the brand, मतलब something about brand that it is internally generated, so on and so forth. ठीक है. Now, Wrench Company is the financial services company of the group operating the Hammer Bank. Its customers are mostly trade customers who obtain credit and loans to finance long-term building projects. In the last year, the financial services regulator has been investigating many banks for charging excessive fees to the customers in relation to loans, meaning that customers can claim back the excessive fees they have been charged. Wrench Company has received legal claims from more than 25,000 customers in respect of this, and the group recognizes a provision of 22 million. The questions that you should have is 25,000 customers, 22 million ka provision for overcharging. Now, there is a risk of material misstatement in the sense that what about the correctness of this value of 22 million? You will have to understand कि ये 22 million कहाँ से आया? What is the basis for this calculation? Because यहाँ पे there are estimates that are involved, correct? यहाँ पे how is the management calculating the 22 million? So there is risk of material misstatement there. Plus, from a business risk angle, I see two problems. First, when the world at large gets to know कि यार आपके कंपनी के अगेंस्ट 25,000 customers have filed legal claims, then आपके कंपनी का क्या इज्जत बचेगा? In the future, people will think multiple times while before taking any loans or before having any business dealings with the company. So there is going to be a reputational damage to the organization. Plus, there is a risk of material misstatement also, that is coming up in this situation. So what I do here is legal claims and risk of non, so that is one issue. Second issue that I have for a lending business could be the fact that if I am into the lending business, there are possibility of bad loans coming up, there are possibilities of bad debts. तो वो allowance for bad debts जो है वो आपको create करना पड़ेगा, and that itself is another risk of material misstatement, that is a business risk also. अब उसको frame कैसे करना है, that is where our expertise will come in. Are you with me so far, all of you?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
And are you getting an idea of how should your thought process be when you are approaching certain questions in the exam? You किसी का फर्स्ट पेपर नहीं है, राइट? ट्रिपल ए किसी का भी होता नहीं है फर्स्ट पेपर, मतलब होना भी नहीं चाहिए. So that means now you are coming to this paper after writing strategic business reporting. That means your mind is now trained for certain things. You have to identify इसका financials पे क्या फर्क पड़ेगा. You should have the ability to link कि अरे sales overstate हुआ तो profit overstate होगा, sales overstate हुआ तो debtors overstate होगा. Timing of revenue recognition is a very critical calculation that you do. So ये सारा कुछ जो है पूरा आपको एक 360 डिग्री व्यू रखना है, बट इट इज एक्सट्रीमली सिचुएशन स्पेसिफिक. इट्स यू डोंट हैव टू गो बियॉन्ड द डेटा इन द क्वेश्चन. एक जगह पे भी आप अपना अलग से दिमाग नहीं लगाएंगे. इफ यू डू दैट देन यू आर स्ट्रेइंग अवे. दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट. ये एसबीएल नहीं है. एसबीएल में तो कुछ भी लिख के आओ चलता है. यहाँ पे इट विल नॉट वर्क. You will have to be extremely focused. In fact, in a lot of ways, this is more technical than SBR. It's even more critical than AFM. Because वहां पे ना you can still write common sense based answer, थोड़ा सा लिख के आ गए sources of finance के बारे में. Here it doesn't work that way. तो थोड़ा सा just try to build the ability to connect different concepts, and I think you should be good to go. Look at the third exhibit. What is it about? Projected consolidated financial statements for the year ending so and so, and comparative information is given to you. Exceptional items are those determined by the management to be non-recurring. In 2005, exceptional items relate solely to store enhancement cost. More detail is provided in Exhibit 4. The exceptional items in the prior year were audited in 2004 and no exceptions were noted. Operating profit before exceptional items, after exceptional items. One of items, these are not repetitive in nature, but you will have to evaluate. The executive directors each earn an annual bonus which is based on annual increases in operating profit before exceptional items. है scope यहाँ पे manipulation करने का?
Absolutely.
Because if my bonus is based on increase in operating profit, naturally, I will make all efforts within my power to keep that operating profit high. So that is an incentive for me to manipulate the financial statements. जहां तक possible है, avoid using the word manipulation in your answers. ठीक है, unless it is a clear-cut case of manipulation. Inventories include materials such as painting and decorating material, timber and doors, as well as tools and equipment for use by professional builders and customers planning to improve their homes. Inventories are measured in accordance with IAS 2 inventory. The group operates a stock take once a year on 30th September in their stores. Gearing, last year, current year. Current ratio, last year, current year. Interest cover. Does it spark questions in your mind? It should. ये issues है. Have a look at the store enhancement program. I'll just quickly have a glass of water and come. Just have a look at exhibit 4. ठीक है? Am I looking very tired, Aditya?
So lack of sleep.
Oh, you
Yeah,
can identify the cause also. Very good.
absolutely.
Chalo. Store enhancement. In Feb 2005, the group started a program of extending and renovating all 25 of Mallet Company's larger hardware stores, which will become destination stores. Wow. And each will have a cafe or a restaurant. Gives me IKEA vibes, basically. The program is expected to cost 5.75 million per store. यहाँ पे देखो, these are all important details that you should be looking at. 5.75 million per store. At any one time, 5 stores are closed while the renovation and necessary construction takes place. And on average, a store will be closed for 2 months while the work is carried out. If the business is closed for 2 months from a store, you have to turn the customers away. So customers किसी और के पास जाएंगे. You are losing out on business risk. The group considers this program to be extremely important to strengthening the brand. Okay. The cost relating to store enhancement in the statement of P&L, which are projected to total 65 million by the financial year end, will be separately disclosed as an exceptional item in the group statement of P&L. The question is this accounting treatment correct? Store enhancement expenditure जो है, it is something which is basically improving the earning potential of the store. Is it correct to show it in P&L or should you capitalize it? That's the question. Then, in addition to 65 million included in statement of P&L, 55 will be capitalized. Okay, capitalization का अलग है for PPE by the financial year end. But how do you come to 65 and 55? टोटल खर्चा कितना है? 120 मिलियन का खर्चा है, राइट? How do you arrive at this number? Is this calculation correct? Calculation is one part. How do you do the classification? So that is a risk of material misstatement. Something that should have been capitalized has been put to P&L, or something that should have been put in P&L has been capitalized. Both of these activities could be done for profit manipulation, because एक तो आपको आपका interest cover maintain करना है, plus there could be other objectives also. What has been capitalized? Extending car parking, constructing new facilities, redecorating the stores, purchase and installation of shelving, labor cost including some of the group's own employees. यहाँ पे you will need proper data in terms of कि अगर you are capitalizing employee cost or expensing of employee cost, you should basically have access to the time sheet. वो time sheet में लिखा होना चाहिए ना how much time was spent on each activity. Promotions in response to the actions by a major competitor, the group introduced several sales promotion during the year. The promotions included heavily discounted product lines and buy one get one free offer, mainly applied to groups paint and wallpaper lines. Now, in order to fight the price war, you will end up giving more discounts, you will end up lowering the sales price, and while you might get more numbers, आपका cost of production is not changing, so you are losing out on GP margins. Your operating profit will fall down, your bottom line will be affected. So this is a major issue. एक और बात देखो, यहाँ पे 5.75 per store. Do 5.75 into 25, how much does it give you?
So 143.75.
143.75.
143.75. यहाँ पे आओ, how much cash do you have? Do you have any information on cash? No, not here.
The only information on cash that we have is to purchase the subsidiary. There's a cash component. Apart from that, there's no other information.
There is no other information. But does this sound a little alarming to you? एक तो आपका current ratio is declining, by the way, if you see, है ना? का current ratio is declining, that means your cash is reducing, and you will need कितना 143 million का cash, which is like a huge number. Now, don't you think it might result in, it's an ambitious plan? You might not have that much cash. And if you spend cash in this, you might end up not having cash for your daily expenses, for your outflows, so on and so forth. So, on that front, there is a business risk involved. Okay. Look at the last exhibit. The group, while not listed, follows best practice corporate governance principles by having an effective internal audit department which reports to an audit committee of independent entities. Investment advice, the group is now considering further international investments in the next few years. And the group audit committee has asked your firm to provide advice on the selection of target companies and financing of any investments which take place. Do you think providing this kind of service to the client makes sense? ठीक है. And a fee has been proposed for providing this service amounting to 75% of audit fee. मुझे रेड फ्लैग दिखना शुरू हो गया है. There are red flags here. And consolidation adjustments, as the group finance director does not have the expertise to complete the conversion from Farland accounting standards to IFRS. पढ़ा नहीं होगा. Your firm has been approached for assistance in this matter. They have requested that as part of the audit, your firm makes the necessary adjustments to apply IFRS to ladder companies' financials and then to consolidate the group financial statements. Now, the reason why I read all of this together is for you to understand by the time you have reached Exhibit 5, you have forgotten almost everything that you read in Exhibit 2, 3, 4. Now, when you sit down to solve the question, अरे क्या problems है? Again, you will end up reading Exhibit 2, 3, 4. You are wasting time twice. यहाँ पे for subpart C and subpart D, they have very specifically stated कि for subpart C use exhibit 4, for subpart D use exhibit 5. Very clear instructions. So don't think about these two tasks at first. ठीक है. When you know that you have to identify business risk and risk of material misstatement, they have specified that you have to use exhibit 2, 3 and 4. जैसे जैसे you start identifying the business risk, please make a short noting of that. यहाँ पे what could be a business risk? It has been involved in a price war with another national hardware store. Just make a short note. Price war, heavy discount, heavy marketing. इतना लिखो. Why इतना लिखो? So that when you sit down to frame the answer, you don't forget anything. Read para 1. If you want in the rough work, you should do para 1, para 2, para 3. आपको पता चलता है कि while I am framing the business risk, where am I supposed to go? यहाँ पे what are the issues that I came across? Majority of income is generated from this subsidiary. 50 retail stores across the country. Price war. So what are the business risks? 50 retail stores, most of the business is coming from here, so heavy dependence. Price war, heavy discount, heavy marketing cost, that means cash outflow hai. Cash outflow is increasing, margins are declining, and you could reference it a little with the declining current ratio also. नहीं किया तो भी चलेगा, किया तो भी ठीक है. Then what I do is I look at the second para, ladder company. I read the para and as and when I identify an issue, I go and write it. अब देखो अभी आपको याद ही नहीं आ रहा है कि ये हमने क्या डिस्कस किया था. This should not happen. The reason why people are unable to complete the AAA paper is they sit down to read the whole story. और ये 4-5 पन्ने का एग्जिबिट जाता है. Right? मतलब if you look at all the background info and exhibits, it is easily 4-5 pages. अब कैप्लन में देखना 4-5 pages है. Reading that 2 times over, don't you think it's a monumental waste of time? पेपर कंप्लीट होगा ही नहीं. सो रीड अ पैरा, मेक अ नोट. रीड अ पैरा, मेक अ नोट. इवन इफ लेटर यू फील कि यार ये कुछ काम का नहीं है, आई विल स्क्रैप इट. ठीक है, नो प्रॉब्लम. बट एटलीस्ट यू डोंट हैव टू वेस्ट टाइम ऑन द सेम थिंग 2 टाइम्स ना. अब सेकंड पैराग्राफ में व्हाट वर सम ऑफ द इश्यूज दैट वी हैड आइडेंटिफाइड? वन वाज वेरिएबल इंटरेस्ट लोन. देन आई हैड आइडेंटिफाइड अ रिस्क ऑफ मटेरियल मिसस्टेटमेंट हियर. Then the purpose of acquisition was to expand. This is the first overseas investment made by the Hammer Group. First time अगर investment किया है तो you will not have expertise that is required to handle an overseas investment. Then there could be a political risk also. यहाँ पे ना एक और problem है, which is a big problem. 35% NCI is owned by the government of Farland. This is not a problem. And there is a regulatory requirement that at least that proportion of a company's share capital is government owned. If it is government owned 35%, don't you think the government will try to interfere in your decision making? You might not be able to have complete control over the subsidiary. This A is a business risk because tomorrow if government का दिमाग खराब हो गया तो your business will be in problem. Another issue that I see here is if you remember consolidation, if you remember the definition of control, It said that ability to direct the activities of the other company. That is what control means. Do you have absolute control here? That is a bit of a question mark for me. ठीक है वो somehow I feel कि यार government might interfere. So ladder company 35% government and related problems first overseas investment short दो दो लाइन में लिख दो. What do you want? लोन्स का अलग से पॉइंट बना दो. लोन रिलेटेड रिस्क जो होता है वो यू माइट थिंक अरे इट इज सच एन ऑब्वियस थिंग कि अरे इंटरेस्ट पेमेंट इज कंपलसरी, रीपेमेंट ऑफ प्रिंसिपल इज कंपलसरी. ये आपके लिए ऑब्वियस है, obvious for the examiner also, but tell him na that you know. So write a separate point relating to that loan related risk. Then ये जो wrench company है, यहाँ पे we had identified non performing assets and high provisions. ठीक है. Dependence on brand. See, they are using the Hammer stores ka brand everywhere, right? The Hammer brand, which is internally generated, is critical to group success. Now, if this brand name gets damaged because of all these issues that are happening, then it will have an impact on the future growth and survival of the company. And ये जो store redevelopment है, destination store might not work. People might just go there, eat, and come home. I think people do that in IKEA. Trust Indians to do that. Then stores closed, loss of sales. Customers going to others might have to borrow. Why might it be required for you to borrow? You need 143 million. You don't have that much cash. How will you generate? You will have to borrow. It will worsen your gearing, and gearing is one of the conditions in the debt covenant. You don't know कितना gearing allow किया है, but you do know कि gearing is a critical matter for you. Borrowing too much is again going to put a pressure on your cash reserves. Why? Because आपको interest and principal repay करना पड़ेगा. So these are all the business related risks that I can identify. I make a note of it. ठीक है. And then I proceed to write the answer. Never just venture into writing the answer. Always do this rough work. And while you read the point, at that time only you do the rough work. Don't come back to it after reading the whole thing. Otherwise क्या होगा, आप दो बार सेम चीज पे टाइम वेस्ट करोगे. And frankly, you don't have that much time in the paper. So plan out the answer and then proceed with the writing. Yes, Aditya, you were saying something.
So, in point number two, when we are acquiring the subsidiary, the
Hmm.
question is saying that 82 million is the purchase consideration,
Hmm.
of which 35 is the loan amount. So
Hmm.
the balance is going to be funded by the cash reserves,
Hmm.
which is stated in the question.
Hmm.
So, is there a business risk that the cash component of the purchase reserve of the purchase consideration can put a strain on the company's working capital cycle, because we also have expenses for the store renovation, etc., and other things, and the current ratio is also falling.
Definitely, that is a critical point. And also, see, this is a foreign country in which you are setting up the subsidiary. First thing. Second thing, वहां पे गवर्नमेंट का 35% इंटरफियरेंस है. इफ फॉर सम रीजन द सब्सिडियरी फेल्स तो आपका तो पूरा का पूरा पैसा वेस्ट हो जाएगा ना. That investment will be a wasteful investment. That is definitely a business risk. Now, before I show you how the answer is written, a couple of points from the professional skills perspective. यहाँ पे what is the verb here? The verb here is evaluate. यहाँ पे है evaluate and prioritize. The skill of analysis and evaluation is going to be tested in A and B both. In subpart B, when you see the word prioritize is going to test you on the skill of commercial acumen. Are you able to decide which one is important and which one is not? So यहाँ पे एनालिसिस एंड इवैल्यूएशन, यहाँ पे एनालिसिस एंड इवैल्यूएशन प्लस प्रायोरिटाइजेशन में आ रहा है आपका कमर्शियल एक्यूमेन. यस आशीष.
Sir, in case of range 4, here we have recognized the provision for 22 million.
हम्म.
At the same time, we are doing the redevelopment of stores. तो सर उन सबको एक पॉइंट बना के गोइंग कंसर्न करके बिजनेस रिस्क लिख सकते हैं पहले. एंड द प्रॉफिट इज जस्ट 24, प्रॉफिट बिफोर टैक्स इज जस्ट 24, लाइक लिख सकते हैं.
गोइंग कंसर्न क्यों? वाई गोइंग कंसर्न?
it may not have that cash reserves, it would be a big strain on cash reserves, sir.
Why are we making assumptions? मतलब assumptions आपने तब ही लेना चाहिए जब, एक तो आपने कभी भी assumption नहीं लेना चाहिए, पॉइंट वन। पॉइंट टू, डोंट स्ट्रे अवे फ्रॉम द डिटेल्स इन द क्वेश्चन। जितना सामने दिया है उसी के बेसिस पे बनाओ ना आपका आंसर। ये ऐसा हुआ तो वो वैसा होगा, फिर ऐसा होगा, ये सब मत करो। Don't stray away from the detail in the question. In real life, all of these points they do make a lot of sense. I'm not denying that. But when you are answering questions in an exam, your focus should be on the information points that are directly given to you, not beyond that.
And sir, in case जो redevelopment का है, for
Hmm.
that it might require funds. So ये भी assumption नहीं ले कि भाई वो borrow करेंगे, and that may also affect the gearing or
That is
inflation.
not an assumption, that is a deduction. There's a difference between the two. Assumption is you are deciding something on the basis of half-baked facts. Deduction is information has been given to you and then you are making a logical conclusion on the basis of points that are given. So there's a difference. What you are doing in case of the store expenditure is a deduction, it is not an assumption. So be careful on that front. ठीक है? Okay. Now we have written our rough notes. They have not asked us to prioritize in business risk. So let's just frame the answer in the order in which the points appear in the question. Now, there are 10 marks allocated to this. How many points should you write? Now, if there are 10 marks for business risk, 5 to 6 well explained points are enough. You should not expect yourself to write 10 points because doesn't make sense. उतने points होंगे भी नहीं, तो जबरदस्ती then you are creating issues or splitting points and SBLing your way out of it. So that is not something you should do. 5 to 6 well explained points are more than enough. Now, what was the first issue that we had highlighted? Mallet Company, 50 retail stores, and most of the business is in the retail stores, price war, heavy discount, ladder company, and dependence on the brand. Reliance on the Hammer brand, acquisition of ladder company, there is a business risk here. ठीक है, there is a business risk in reliance on the Hammer brand. There is a bank loan which invites a certain risk with respect to the variable rate loan, वो issue है. Then there is Mallet company which has that price war wala situation. Then extension and redevelopment of stores and legal claims. कितने points हो गए? 1 2 3 4 5 and 6. 6 well explained points are enough to take you on the other side. ठीक है, अब first of all when you write about a risk, how should you frame the answer? First of all, describe the risk and then talk about the impact on the business. The group's success largely depends on the Hammer brand, and any damage to the brand can adversely impact the success of the group. Talk about why is it a risk. Risk को पहले describe करो and then go into an explanation. There is an ongoing investigation into excessive fees charged by French company, which is a part of the group, and 25,000 claims have been received so far. Such overcharging is likely to adversely impact customer perception of the brand, and they might move to other competitors. Ki, yaar, these people are overcharging us. They are fraudulent people, so we'll not take any more loans from them. We'll go to someone else. Hammer brand is spending heavily on marketing to maintain market share, and this might put a stress on the cash flow. Talk about how reliance on a particular brand name might spell disaster for the company when the brand name gets impacted. Here, there is a lot of possibility of the brand name getting impacted because of the legal claims. ठीक है, then see here also the way you arrange your answer makes a lot of impact on the communication skill का marks also. ये देखो, acquisition of ladder company, don't straight away jump to the issue. Tell why is acquisition a challenge here. एक, this is the first overseas subsidiary. ये first होना is an achievement also for the company, but it causes Major challenges. First, overseas subsidiary acquisition, and group may lack sufficient expertise to operate an overseas subsidiary according to the laws and regulations of that country. Risk को describe करो. Then go ahead. The government of Farland owns 35% of the share capital of Ladder, which means it can exercise significant influence on Ladder. Now, 35%, in financial reporting, you have studied when do you say there is a significant influence, when do you say there is a control. Government has a 35% share, so government has significant influence. But because it is government there and it is a government of a foreign country, there is a possibility that it will use its political power and significant influence while making decisions for Ladder Co. And Hammer Company will not be able to effectively exercise control on the foreign subsidiary. You have spent 82 million cash for acquisition of Ladder. You hold 65% shares in the company, but the problem is control होके भी आपका control नहीं है, because the other party, the 35% holder, is not just any corporate. It is one of the, it is the government itself. And end of the day जो government बोलेगा आपको सुनना पड़ेगा. You might be upset about it, you might have a problem about it, but you will still have to accept it. So it will not be effective control over ladder company, and that itself is a business risk. ठीक है. So आपने ये वाला इशू डिस्क्राइब कर दिया. फर्स्ट, ओवरसीज इन्वेस्टमेंट है तो एक्सपर्टीज नहीं है. 35% गवर्नमेंट कंट्रोल है तो नेचुरली देयर आर प्रॉब्लम्स दैट कम विद इन द टेरिटरी. इंटरफियरेंस होगा गवर्नमेंट का, एंड दैट इज अ बिजनेस प्रॉब्लम. देन बैंक लोन. द acquisition of ladder company is partly financed through a bank loan of 32 million. कैसे पता चला? यहां पे लिखा था शेयर परचेज वॉज फाइनेंस्ड पार्टली विथ अ $32 million का बैंक लोन विच हैज अ वेरिएबल रेट ऑफ इंटरेस्ट. ठीक है. नाउ this is a variable rate loan, which means that if the base rate rises, the interest will also rise, putting a pressure on cash flows and exposing the company to interest rate risk. People who have studied AFM, I'm sure you have come across the topic of interest rate risk. What is interest rate risk? Movement in the interest rates causing a higher outflow. यहाँ पे डिस्क्राइब द रिस्क फर्स्ट. 32 मिलियन का लोन लिया. 32 मिलियन का लोन इज अ वेरिएबल रेट लोन. If the variable rate goes up, then the cash flow also goes up. So describe that properly. The loan amount is 6.4% of the total assets of the group, which represents a significant borrowing. Now you know the total assets of the company, 500, and this is 32. It is, sir, what if we don't remember this point in the exam? It's okay, no problem. But now that you have had a discussion, with me, you should know that whenever we are talking about loans, or we want to talk about how significant a particular item is, we should say कि यार कंपनी का टोटल असेट इतना था, उसमें से लोन इतना इतना है. मेजर आइटम फॉर द कंपनी, मेजर रिस्क फॉर द कंपनी. The loan amount is 6.4% of total assets, which represents a significant borrowing, and there has been a sharp increase in gearing. ये कैसे पता चला आपको? Sharp increase in gearing दिखा है कहीं पे?
हाँ सर, उधर ऊपर राइट में hearing था.
Gearing. Last year 35%, current year 68%. That means proportion of debt has significantly gone up. And do you think that is a challenge for the organization? Very much so. So that is also a business risk with respect to the excessive loan funds that you are raising for the business. So mention that part. Now it doesn't mean कि यार loan के बारे में यहाँ पे लिखा है तो you will get your answer only from here. When you are making rough notes, you have written that one of the business risks is the loans, loan related risk and variable rate. You are doing your rough work, you note it down, you move ahead, and then when you come to this particular when you come to this particular area, you do realize कि यार ये गियरिंग का बात हो रहा है. और अगर गियरिंग का बात हो रहा है तो what impact does it have? That is related to the loans. So that point has to be merged and spoken about together. ठीक है. So you write about the bank loan, then there is a price war. A price war हो रहा है तो you did that analysis कि selling price you have to cut down, but your cost of production is the same. So your margins are declining. If your margins are declining, your cash flows are reducing, मतलब your cash inflow is reducing, and you're already spending too much on marketing, which is why आपके cash reserves are going down and the current ratio has fallen because of diminishing cash balances. So you describe the impact of the price war. Then you go into expansion and redevelopment of stores. There is a large cash outlay expected with the store expansion. आपने लिखा था ना, you only told me that it is 144 million. There is a possibility that the destination store concept might not work. Here you are not talking about कि यार financial statement के values में क्या गलती होगा, या you are not talking about अरे will the value be overstated or understated which can cause problems. You are saying कि यार business चलने में क्या गड़बड़ हो सकता है, can something stop the business from coming to life. So there, then you think about, okay, this is the total amount of expenditure. I have so much cash with me, and the destination store का जो idea है, that is a new idea. It might or might not work. You don't really know. Then when you are closing down the stores, 2-3 महीना, whenever the store is closed down, उतने महीने का sale you will lose out on. If you are losing out on that much sale, then again that affects the business. ठीक है. Now, since the cash outlay is heavy, the current cash balances might fall inadequate and the group might be required to borrow funds. And again, जो आपका gearing already it is at 68%, you might have to take it up even further, and again you start having multiple problems. Also talk about the legal claims. We did discuss what the legal claims are, and there are already claims worth 22 million on the company. ये claim जब आपको pay करने का time आएगा, naturally it will go up even further. And cash outflows, again, cash outflows spell problems for the company, because right now you are not in your best shape. You are getting affected majorly by what is happening around you. ठीक है. Your cash position is not good. Your business decisions might tank the business further. So that is about the legal claims. What I would want you to do right now before we go to risk of material misstatement is, while we have discussed and read it, I want you to read it once more. ठीक है. ये 3 points पढ़ो. Yes, Ayush.
Sir, the like the answer which we are reading, the the outlay that we have written and the format that we have used. So, in the exam kit, the format that they have used, as in the length of the answer, it is like it is way more than what is like actually
This is
needed,
what you are
right?
supposed to do. जो मैंने
So
लिखा
this,
है उतना is
uh,
enough.
okay, sir. Uh,
See, if you have ever read the exam kit carefully for SBR, for AAA, even for AFM, they write there very specifically that this is the maximum possible that we have put together in terms of explanation. You are not supposed to write this much in the exam.
okay, sir. Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
So can you please scroll?
Sure. ठीक है. आप पढ़ो. Then we'll go into risk of material misstatement.
So finished.
पढ़ लिया?
Ah, sir.
Yes,
Okay.
excuse me,
Any
sir.
questions? Yes, tell me.
Yes, sir. Sir, do we write that going concern issues or not? Because I can't see in any of the points. So
There
is
is
it
no, there is no going concern issue here.
so like when we are having cash flow issues, can we just exaggerate it and write it's
No, you shouldn't.
okay?
You shouldn't. Yes, Riya?
So for the going concern only, like Darshan also mentioned, when there is a debt covenant or something like that, जैसे इसके अंदर there's a covenant related to gearing and interest cover. So
Mm-hmm.
that will result in material uncertainty related to going concern. So can we write that in audit risk now, at least?
You might, but it's not something, that's a game changer in these type of answers.
Mm-hmm.
So, उससे क्या होगा? What we can end up doing is we'll end up equating every point as a going concern problem, na?
Um,
That is what a
yes,
lot of people
kind of.
will end up doing, and it is a
Mm,
possibility, but not every point can be connected or should be connected with a going concern issue.
absolutely agreed.
So,
So, even in the risk of material statement or in audit risk, if we mention anything like that, so it will be considered as a hypothetical point.
see, in risk of material misstatement and audit risk, it's still okay to
Mm-hmm.
include that, but not in business risk.
Okay.
And there also high priority items or high impact items should be considered, not everything. Okay, so when we do risk of material misstatement, I'll point out certain areas, which can become potential risk, potential going concern problems. So we have to be careful about what we classify as a going concern issue.
Okay. And just on the prioritizing part, as you said, so is it like, for example, we might overlook this information, or just an exam pressure, we couldn't highlight which one is more significant or something like that. So
Hmm,
we'll end up losing marks on that also.
a little, not all of them, but there will be an impact.
Okay. All right, sir. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Chalo. Now we have to get into the risk of material misstatement. And when we are talking about risk of material misstatement or audit risk, we should open up the discussion with a specific focus on materiality. जैसे, for the purpose of these briefing notes, the overall materiality has been set keeping the revenue threshold in mind. Not my decision, their decision to do it. They specifically told me that the overall materiality will be based on revenue. 0.5% to 1% of total revenue, which is 450. Lower threshold 2.25, upper threshold 4.5. लिख दो, no problem. And then get into the decision, then get into the justification. This benchmark is only the starting point for discussion of materiality. The group is an existing audit client. However, we have observed that there are significant cash flow pressures on account of store redevelopment and extension. Ratios such as gearing and interest cover have deteriorated, and therefore it is prudent to set the materiality at the lower end of the threshold, which is 2.25. What we are basically trying to say is कि यार ये high risk client है. क्यों high risk client है? Because interest cover and gearing, which are important from a debt covenant perspective, these have deteriorated, and if the debt covenant is breached, then there will be a major cash outflow on account of loan repayment, and this can cause going concern problem. So don't write it here that this can cause going concern problem, but that is what you are trying to indicate कि there will be a massive cash outflow, और वो बचाने के लिए the business might end up manipulating the results, and therefore my risk here is high. Therefore, I am setting the materiality at the lower end of the spectrum, which is 2.25. You get 2 marks here, one for the materiality bit, one for the justification. Now, when you look at it from a financial statement perspective, anything understated or overstated. And as I told you, avoid using the word manipulation in your answers. Now, if you look at the exhibits that are presented in front of you, यहाँ पे I see a possibility for manipulation because of the covenants attached with interest cover and gearing. So my incomes might be overstated in this case. There is, so I see this one very glaring issue कि यार ये गड़बड़ करके it is quite possible that these people will turn around the situation. ठीक है? So this is something where a material misstatement is likely to occur. See, what is a misstatement? A misstatement is a wrong statement. And when the impact of that is material, when the impact of that is significant, that is when I say that it is a material misstatement. Chota mota items are naturally, you will have to ignore those items. One thing that you felt was कि यार एक तो यहाँ पे there is a scope for this issue. नाउ और चेक करो और कहाँ कहाँ पे पॉइंट है यहाँ पे इफ यू ऑब्जर्व लैडर कंपनी ओन्स वॉट एवर नंबर ऑफ स्टोर्स एंड लैडर कंपनी हैज अ डिफरेंट set of accounting standards as compared to your own accounting standards. Now, there is a point that you should keep in mind that if the accounting standards are not the same, मतलब दोनों जगह if you are not using IFRS, the subsidiaries' financial statements for the purpose of consolidation have to be converted into. So, if they are not as per IFRS or the accounting standards applied by the subsidiary and the accounting policies used by the subsidiary, you will have to first of all convert the non IFRS financial statements into the IFRS based financial statements. Okay. When you do this conversion, then only you will be able to consolidate. And while doing it, and there will be consolidation adjustments also. There is a very high inherent risk. First overseas subsidiary hai. Group might lack the competence to convert the local financial reporting standards into IFRS compliant calculations, and multiple values in the consolidation process are likely to be misstated. एक और इशू है, ये एक सेपरेट इशू हो गया, यूज ऑफ नेशनल अकाउंटिंग स्टैंडर्ड्स. सेकंड इशू, क्लासिफिकेशन. Now, there are quite a few questions in consolidation in SBR where they ask you, tell me this is an associate or a subsidiary, this is an associate or a joint venture or a subsidiary. Now, to say that the other company is the subsidiary, you need to have control over the other company. ठीक है. Now, due to the fact that 35% of the holding is by the government, it is possible that, something that the government feels is not according to their agenda, there is a possibility that they will block that decision. These operating and other decisions made by the Hammer Group, the company will block, not the company, the government will end up blocking these decisions because of the fact that A, it is the government, and B, it holds a 35% holding in the company. So, while Hammer Company owns 65% of the shares, you have to evaluate whether it is in a position to actually exercise control over ladder company. And if it is not able to, so right now 65-35 और ये सब लिखा है, your point should mention कि यार normally तो 65% holding says कि इसको subsidiary करके treat करो, but here we are getting other indications which are telling us कि यार this might not be a subsidiary. So ideally, I should check whether its classification as a subsidiary in the consolidated financial statements, is it correct or not? So, as an organization, so when you are preparing the financial statements, अगर classification incorrect हो गया तो naturally the consolidated financial statements will have a material misstatement. So this is another point with respect to the subsidiary. ठीक है. Now they have asked you evaluate and prioritize. So don't straight away get into prioritization. आप पहले सारे risks को describe करो, and then depending on the value impact of this risk, ठीक है, depending on the value impact of this risk, then you start prioritizing. Are these two risks clear to you? No.
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
One more risk that is usually there in a consolidation situation. कुछ आपको मतलब are you able to think of something? Consolidation related ही बताना.
Goodwill, sir.
What goodwill? वो तो सारा आपका कंसोलिडेशन एडजस्टमेंट्स में आ जाएगा.
ट्रांसलेशन रिस्क.
ट्रांसलेशन रिस्क भी आपका कंसोलिडेशन एडजस्टमेंट में आ जाएगा. And we are writing that when the accounting standards of the other country वहां से यहाँ पे conversion हो रहा है तो we are going to write about all the consolidation adjustment related issue. Yes, Himanshu?
Control.
What
Hello, sir. Am I audible? So we
Yeah.
have to establish that if we have a control or not.
वो तो point हो गया discuss. What else? When you are acquiring the subsidiary company, it is necessary that at the time of consolidation, all the assets and liabilities of the subsidiary entity, all the identifiable assets and liabilities of the subsidiary entity have to be included in the consolidated financial statements at their fair value. Now, fair value measurement might be a problem in this case. Why? Because the subsidiary is in another country. And when it is in another country, calculation of fair value might be a difficult task. Why is that a difficult task? Because एक तो you don't know the active markets there, you don't know what is the value at which the investments, sorry, at which different items are being bought and sold. So fair value determination will be a problem, and then that will impact your everything. Goodwill हो गया, net asset हो गया, सब पे उसका impact आएगा. So that is also another major issue when it comes to consolidating the results of two companies. Here, the reason why I'm talking about these things is risk of material misstatement is in the financial statements. So financial consolidated financial statements में क्या क्या issue हो सकता है? We are talking about that. So we looked at 3 points. Or other, 3 points basically. First one, classification of ladder company as a subsidiary, उसमें क्या problems है? Then different accounting standards, then fair value measurement. And I see one more point here with respect to interest cover and gearing, that there is a risk of material misstatement that might be there for making, for meeting the debt covenant. तो वो भी एक issue हो सकता है. ठीक है, चलो. Now I want you to read acquisition of subsidiary, subsidiary का classification and ladder company use of national accounting standards.
Sir, done.
Done? I'll scroll further. Just read the use of national accounting standards wala part. Yes, Ayush, tell me.
Sir, in points where we are actually giving references to um, accounting standards.
Hmm.
So while writing the answer, how should the balance be? Like in this case, when where you have written write down the conditions of IFRS 10 which describe control. So we need to describe it in brief, or we need to give a little more backing to what description are we giving, or it should be more focused on that, okay, this is the description, and according to this description, these
Mhm.
are the risks that are currently associated. So like what should be the balance between stating the accounting standard and explaining it, and explaining why is it a risk?
Your main focus should be on explaining why is it a risk. There is
Okay.
not too much importance that I would attach to explaining or writing the conditions in the accounting standard. That's not required.
Okay, so just a brief explanation of the accounting standard would be enough.
Yeah, yeah. You don't have to go in any level of detail there.
Okay, sir, thank you.
Has everyone finished reading?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
ठीक है. अब let's talk about the next set of risks. Okay. चलो. Now here, what risk do you see in case of wrench companies' financial statements because of the claims? ये बताना तो.
Valuation of provisions.
Valuation of provisions, there is a high possibility that the provisions are understated in this case. है ना? Why would provisions be understated? In order to present a better, prettier picture of the P&L account, right? So that is one thing. Then understatement of provisions का कहाँ कहाँ पे impact होगा?
Expenses and liabilities.
So the impact would be on the profit in the SOPL and in the current liabilities in the SOFP.
It will have an impact on the balance sheet and on the P&L both. What has happened here is you have claims from more than 25,000 customers, and group recognizes a provision of 22 million. Now, what is the average amount of, you should know na ki if there are 25,000 claims, on an average, how much amount is repayable to each customer? वो एक आपको निकालना पड़ेगा. That should form the basis of calculating the amount of provision to be recognized. Another issue that you have is the fact that how do you arrive at this 25,000? Now, are there any more customers whose names have not been included? So that might also lead to an understatement of provision. So this is a major challenge and this is a major risk of material misstatement. Risk: claims calculation incorrect, profits overstated, liability understated. Possible that all claims have not been identified and recorded. Possibility of fine penalty being imposed by the regulator which has not been accounted for. Here I there is quite a possibility that the regulator has been investigating multiple banks, and which is why all of these claims have come into existence. But there is a possibility that the regulator will levy a fine on you over and above the amounts that have to be returned to customers. तो वो fine का कोई provision has not been created. So again, profits overstated, liabilities understated. Similarly, you have to question the 25,000 customers and you have to question the 22 million. How do you arrive at 25,000? वो number कहाँ से आया? Plus, how does the 22 million come into play? So question the correctness of both. Here your skepticism will come into play when you are talking about this point. You are questioning 25,000 लिखा है but उससे ज़्यादा भी हो सकता है. So there is a possibility that this number is incorrect. There is a possibility that 22 million is also incorrect. It is understated. So here you end up demonstrating the skill of skepticism. You end up demonstrating the skill of evaluation, and you also make a reference to the accounting standard. One common point that you can have in respect of all the जहाँ पे you have an accounting standard related accounting standard focused point, you can always say that Yeah, इसके disclosures might, the risk is that the disclosures have not happened as per the requirements of the accounting standard. That could be another point that you could always include in the risk of material misstatement. ठीक है? एक बार have a quick look at the provisions वाला point. Yes, Aditya.
So the materiality set is 2.25 million,
Hmm.
correct?
Hmm.
And the amount of provision is 22 million.
Hmm.
So when we do 22 divide by 2.25, we get 9.7 times. So
Hmm.
when we have to when we have to prioritize all these risks,
Hmm.
so how should we decide which point to write first and which point to write next,
Okay.
or do we write
Let's
in?
discuss let's discuss the risks first, and I'll tell you how the prioritization should be done. ठीक है? Then inventories. Anything that you want to say about inventories? Have a look at it once.
So there's a stock count which is taking place only once a year, and this could make it convenient for any possible misappropriation of assets. It's a fraud risk factor.
That could be one. Now,
So
from a financial
in
statement
240.
perspective, financial statements may see inventories are measured in accordance with IAS 2, which means it is measured as per cost or NRV, whichever is lower. Correct? Now, in case of this company, if you observe, they are already engaged in a price war. So they are offering lots of discounts, and all of that is happening, right? One for one free, और पता नहीं क्या क्या offers चल रहे हैं यहाँ पे. So it is, don't you think it is quite likely that the net realizable value will be significantly lower as compared to the cost? Is that a
Yes.
possibility? Net realizable value will be significantly lower as compared to the cost. And if that is the case, then there is a possibility that the financial statements are also misstated, है ना? Because the inventory might be incorrectly valued in this situation.
So can you please repeat the last point?
Okay, so what I was saying is, see, inventory is valued at lower of net realizable value, lower of cost or net realizable value.
Right.
Now the company is selling goods at, they are doing a lot of offers, they are giving heavy discounts. So it is quite possible that the selling price of each unit might be significantly lower than the cost. Is it possible?
Yes, sir.
So, do you think that inventory is likely to be overvalued in this
Overvalued.
situation?
Yes, sir.
And that would be done in order to A, show a stronger asset base, and to show a higher level of gross profit, and ultimately higher level of operating and net profit.
Right.
So I do see that as major problems and causing a risk of material misstatement. है ना?
Yes, sir. Makes sense up to here.
चलो. So, since one for one and other offers including heavy discounts are on, estimated selling price is likely to be lower than the cost. So, NRV is likely to be lower than cost. If systems are not in place to identify instances of lower NRV, that means if there are control lapses, Inventory would be stated at cost and not at the lower NRV value. There would be overstatement of profits and assets both, and that is also a risk of material misstatement. ठीक है. Now, अच्छा, ये कैपिटलाइजेशन ऑफ कॉस्ट वाला भी एक पॉइंट था दैट वी हैड डिस्कस्ड कि when you are saying that 65 million is expense to P&L and 55 million has been capitalized, how do you know whether this has been correctly split or not? There is a risk that the amounts allocated between capex and revenue expenditure are not split correctly. This will lead to understatement of expenses and overstatement of profit, or it could lead to overstatement of assets in the financial statements. बहुत सारे अलग अलग issues are possible. The cost of redecorating the stores, cost of labor, how do you split them? How do you know? Do you have access to uh, timesheets? What are the timesheets telling you? How is the calculation done? What is the basis for split? And because of this, what will happen? You could end up overstating assets, you could end up overstating expenses, you could end up misstating the amount of your depreciation. So all of these items are going to get impacted, and the capitalization of cost versus expensing of the costs are pretty much causes for material misstatement in the financial statements. So you write about that as well. एक बार देख लो point, have a look at it once.
Sir,
हम्म.
I had a doubt in this capitalization of cost wale mein. Sir,
हम्म.
store enhancement cost is approximately 144 million,
हम्म.
but they have recognized 65 million.
हम्म.
And like the अगर हम calculate करें तो there are 25 stores to be renovated if I'm not wrong,
हम्म.
and each like for 5 stores it's taking 2 months. तो
हम्म.
सर वो एक साल में हो जाना चाहिए if like that, उस हिसाब से
हम्म.
जाए तो उस हिसाब से तो पूरा 144 मिलियन कॉस्ट रिकॉग्नाइज करना चाहिए था ना इनको.
You could write that, or maybe things have been delayed because of lack of funds. All possibilities are there. So you can write that if you want.
Yeah, they stated in
Okay,
the
sir.
question that it started in February, sir.
Then in that case, you don't have to. See, this is not अच्छा, remember one thing. मैथमेटिकल एक्यूरेसी चेक करने के लिए ये एएफएम का या एसबीआर का पेपर नहीं है. सो वो ओवर एनालिसिस करने में टाइम वेस्ट मत करना अपना. ठीक है.
Okay, sir.
चलो. And then of course impact of exceptional items and their impact on margin. The operating profit margin before exceptional items has improved from 19.4% in 2004 to 21.56% in 2005. How do we know it? We have enough values given to us to be able to calculate that. Given the fact that the company is involved in price war, this was expected to decline. As we can see, the operating profit margin after exceptional items has fallen from 7.46% in 2004 to 7.11% in 2005. This is in line with heavy discounts being offered. The increase in operating margin before exceptional items is particularly concerning as the amount of directors' bonus depends on this number. Now, what I did was I first of all calculated the operating profit margin before exceptional items, because we know that directors का bonus जो है वो ये calculation पे आपको मिलने वाला है. So you calculated that for 2004 and you calculated that for 2005. Now after you have done those calculations, what conclusion you see? Here last year 78 upon 402 and this year 97 upon 407 है ना. So ये कुछ गड़बड़ लग रहा है ना. Because if you're offering heavy discounts, then this shouldn't have occurred. If heavy discounts are there, the profit margins should have gone down. And here you don't see the profit margins going down. So something seems very, very fishy to me here, right? So again,
Yes,
this is there is a possibility. See, you don't have to tell exactly what is the misstatement. वो आपको नहीं बताना है. But you have to specifically tell what is the risk of material misstatement. The fact that even after offering heavy discounts, this is still happening. I guess enough cause for worry, enough risk of material misstatement coming your way. Okay. So just mention that fact and see बाद में operating profit after exceptional items कितना है? 30/402. This has declined. Now, this also seems like a little weak. This is still okay because, if you have offered discounts, then ultimately the profits should have declined. But executive directors earn their bonus on annual increase in operating profit before exceptional items. So here some manipulation has occurred or something has been misstated somewhere to produce this outcome. Now, we are not investigators, so we are not going to spend time in identifying कि अरे यहाँ पे क्या हुआ. But yes, it is our job to highlight that. Now, you might ask me, Satyamed, how do you know that this is the area that we have to dig deep into? See, whenever the question is on material misstatement or audit risk, आपका analytical procedures do play an important role there also. Now, यहाँ पे you don't have too much data anyway, na? You have revenue, you have PBIT, you have exceptional items, you have finance cost, PBT. So, you can calculate interest cover, you can calculate operating profit margin, and you know that यहाँ पे लिखा है executive directors each earn an annual bonus which is based on annual increases in operating profit before exceptional items. So, naturally, all of these points are highlighted, and that is inviting us to make these calculations. So, ये calculations तो आपको करने ही चाहिए, right? Yes, Ashish.
But also about inventories, na, if we are offering huge discounts, so the inventory should have reduced, right? But it seems like it is increasing. No? We
And
will accept.
we did mention that in the inventory wala point, na, that the NRV should have been lower, and there is a lapse of control there, and inventory values might be misstated. तो ये तो हमने already बोल दिया यहाँ पे.
Okay.
So we have already handled. ठीक है. So, which analytical procedures to perform? See, you will not be given very long financial statements that you start confusing yourselves with कि मैंने कौन सा analytical procedure perform करना चाहिए, which ratio should I calculate. Here you have a very limited items, and you know that the executive directors का bonus depends upon the annual increase in profit before exceptional items. So again, please make that calculation to comment further. ओके. द कॉस्ट ऑफ यहाँ पे कहाँ गया, हाँ. Amount of 65 million spent on store enhancement has been classified as an exceptional item. However, what qualifies as an exceptional item is based on management judgment. There is no clear-cut definition anywhere in the accounting standards which will tell you कि यार this is what is your exceptional item. उसके बारे में किसी ने कहीं पे कुछ भी नहीं लिखा है. ठीक है. So if that specific part has not been told to you, then this will be based upon management judgment, and wherever management judgment is involved, then what happens after that? If management judgment is involved, then naturally there is a scope for doing things your way and not following a standard anywhere. So Definitely, that has an impact on the misstatement in the financial statements. Incorrect classification and presentation will mislead the users of financial statements. The consistency of presentation will not be achieved. Inadequate disclosures relating to these costs present a potential risk of misstatement. So, not it I'm not we cannot say that okay, this has to be a misstatement, but we should definitely say that this is definitely a symptom of misstatement. So I'm using the word likely presents a potential risk of misstatement. Okay. And now comes the most important part. How do you prioritize? ये तो हमने risk को describe कर दिया. Now prioritization के लिए there are certain basic rules that you should follow. ठीक है. I will tell you that for the exam ना, don't prioritize first. ठीक है. सबसे पहले write down the risk description. आपका first priority should always be to a risk that brings going concern issue. ठीक है. Then later on you should talk about, then arrange all the other risks, and when you are prioritizing, it should be in decreasing order of the value. So that means highest priority to risk with highest value, and then in descending order. उसके बाद if there are any internal control risks or internal control lapses leading to risks later, third priority. सबसे पहले सबसे बड़ा problem is going concern. So that point has to be discussed first, and then in the decreasing order of value, anything that might bring the going concern issue into question, वो सबसे पहले लिखो. So you will get the marks for prioritization this way, and the prioritization marks will basically highlight your commercial acumen. So you will get that professional mark here. This is not something that I am saying on the basis of my own understanding. I have gone through a lot of material published by official ACCA website. I'm not going by what people on LinkedIn say. I'm going by what people from the ACCA body actually say. And this is what they have to put across. Okay. So the prioritization part, this is how you will have to plan that in the exam. Now, the third task is using Exhibit 4, design the principal audit procedures to be performed in respect of expenditure relating to store enhancement program. Principal audit procedure with respect to store enhancement program. यहाँ पे my biggest challenge is the incorrect classification. Correct. So how do I go about my principal audit procedures? The first thing is, first of all, understand the what is the plan that the company has. उसके लिए आपको क्या लगेगा? You will have to check supporting documentation, which is basically minutes of the board meeting, whether this capex program was signed off by authorized personnel, वो check करना पड़ेगा. Then you will have to अब the capitalization part and the expensing of part, that is where all the problems lie. So first of all, if you want to check the capitalization, आप क्या करेंगे? Here these are self-constructed stores that you are renovating and changing. So first of all, you will have to identify how much expenditure has been incurred. For that, you will have to look at the management accounting records. Then you will have to see what is the status of completion, कितना काम complete हुआ है. For that, you will have to see whether a report has been obtained from a registered valuer or an expert valuer, which gives you the percentage completion of each of the sites. ठीक है. How many stores completed? What is the percentage completion? How many are still under construction? And on the basis of that, you will have to decide percentage completion. Then what all costs are being capitalized? वो आपको check करना पड़ेगा. So you will have to obtain a schedule of all the costs which are capitalized. Plus you will have to obtain a schedule of all the costs that were incurred with respect to this particular premises. उससे क्या होगा, उससे आपको पता चलेगा which these could be management accounting records also. You will have to see which material was used where. Do you have adequate documentation? If you are checking the time that, see, because यहाँ पे they have also said कि worker का जो salary and wages था that also got capitalized. So you will have to check time sheets, see the work allocation. From the time sheets, obtain the data of, how much time was spent on which activity. Then capitalization will depend upon that. Okay, then you will also have to check the documentation. Key, suppose we have written that we purchased material worth 20 crores. Do you have supporting documentation to prove that 20 crores worth of cement, wood, and whatever material was purchased? Now, what has been written under operating expenditure and what has been written under capital expenditure? एक एक आपको item को check करना पड़ेगा to see whether this classification is correct or not. Then the amounts which are getting capitalized, are those going into the uh, non-current asset register? You will have to see what kind of controls exist to ensure that correct classification is happening. That is also something that you will have to check, right? So internal controls, then labor cost, documentation, physical inspection of select store premises. That is also another financial statement assertion. आप सोचो एग्जिस्टेंस कैसे चेक करेंगे, गो टू द स्टोर एंड सी कि यहाँ पे स्टोर है, इस कंस्ट्रक्शन गोइंग ऑन. देन वैल्यूएशन के लिए तो वी डिस्कस्ड. देन प्रेजेंटेशन, हाउ आर यू शोइंग इट इन द फाइनेंशियल स्टेटमेंट्स? इज इट शोन एज कैपिटल WIP? That is the correct heading ideally. Then what disclosures are you providing? So presentation and disclosure. So that is how you will design the principal audit procedures. Remember one thing, whenever you are designing principal audit procedures, the safest way to do that, to ensure कि भाई whatever you are writing, it is एक base level valid or not. ये आप कैसे check करेंगे? You will obtain data about, you will think about the financial statement assertions, existence. Stores exist करते हैं कि नहीं? Are these stores existing or not? I will go to the premises and check whether the stores are there and whether a construction activity is taking place or not. Existence. वैल्यूएशन की तो लंबा चौड़ा एक्सप्लेनेशन है, लंबे चौड़े प्रोसीजर्स है. We'll talk about that. Presentation and disclosure. Maybe rights and obligations ka assertion is not so important here. But what I'm trying to say is that your answer has to be made in a very, very comprehensive manner. ठीक है? So have a look at these principal audit procedures.
So for this section of the question, let's say if this was for 10 marks or 7 marks or 8 marks, uh, so the number of points have to be commensurate with the amount of marks. क्योंकि procedures
Exactly.
तो सिर्फ एक लाइन के ही items है.
Procedure को थोड़ा explain करो. How will you obtain that data point? Whom will you ask? What question will be put across to whom? ठीक है? So this is how you, एक procedure पे ना usually question आता है in the AAA exam. And the last question here is, using Exhibit 5, discuss any ethical issues arising and recommend actions that need to be taken. Chalo, look at this exhibit and tell me what ethical issues are arising here.
Self-review, self-interest.
Management threat also.
Management, okay. Okay.
Familiar.
So the firm could be at a risk of assuming management responsibility by taking over the roles that the management is supposed to be doing.
Okay, sounds fair. Then what else?
In point number one, we have a self-interest threat because the fees is 75% of the audit fee.
Hmm.
That could be a threat to objectivity. And for point two, we can have a self-review threat क्योंकि जो एडजस्टमेंट्स हम खुद करेंगे बाद में चेक भी वही हमको करना है ना.
Okay, that's a fair point. Self-review. Then,
And we'll be reluctant to highlight our own mistakes, I would rather say. तो उस वजह से self review thread बढ़ेगा भी. And in fact, in second one, we can also have management thread because we'll be presuming management's responsibilities in terms of doing the consolidation adjustment and उनको assistance provide करने. So these
okay,
are the two threads I think that should be there in the second point.
okay.
So there is a threat
If we
that
want
the
to
audit
control these
quality might
threats,
not be good.
Threat two.
Since sorry,
I,
sir.
I couldn't hear you. What did you say?
So there's a threat that the audit quality might go down since the investment advice is consisting 75% of the audit fees. So the overall audit quality might deteriorate.
Quite possible. So self-interest wala point to of course, and those impacts will have to be incorporated. Yes, Aditya.
so these threats could be lowered to an acceptable level if we maintain separate teams for undertaking these tasks, and we have to ensure that the team which is performing these functions is not taking part in the audit of the firm of
Right.
the client.
So the reason why the point that Aditya mentioned, why is it necessary to include that point? Because see, the question doesn't just say what are the issues here. They are also saying give us recommend any actions that need to be undertaken. So that part also will have to be incorporated in your answer. Okay. Now, the first question will always be an amalgamation of all of these issues, which is basically business risk, risk of material misstatement, audit risk. इसके लिए आप 20-25 marks पकड़ के चलो. One procedure is most likely to be asked, and then something else like ethics हो गया, money laundering हो गया, quality management हो गया. These points can come for the last 6-7 marks in the question. What we'll do tomorrow is I'll pick up one question on quality management, as in quality control during an audit. I will pick up one question on matters to be considered and items that you expect to find on the audit file. Okay, these are the two question types that I'll pick up for tomorrow. Then day after tomorrow का देखते हैं क्या करना है. ठीक है. This video I will be uploading it to my YouTube channel. So you can watch it there as well. I will be sharing the sheet with you on the group. If you have any questions for tomorrow, just send those to me before the session starts and I'll help you with that. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Okay? Yes, Ayush.
So can I talk to you for a minute after the class? Is it possible? Just
Sure.
had a couple of queries.
SBR related, right?
Yes, sir, SBR and triple both.
Okay. Uh, you can call me.